Hey YouTube, let me first start off by saying that this video is not about Ron Paul. I think if I beat that dead horse any longer, my brains are going to start leaking out of my ears. What I wanted to talk about today was Israel. It's something that comes up in political discussions on the net over and over again, especially given the left-leaning nature of large portions of the internet. It seems to be a cause célèbre, if you will, by the young sort of progressive agnostic left to assign to Israel this unified talisman of evil, that they are the worst, that their side is always wrong. And frankly, I don't understand it, especially coming from that perspective, because when I look at the Israelis versus the Palestinians, I see two groups who both think God's on their side and are both willing to use violence to accomplish their goals. So I really don't understand it. I don't understand the predilection of one side over the other. Now, given that, I am not a blind supporter of Israel. I think if I was around in 1948 and could have any kind of influence on the decision, I would not have voted for the UN decision to create the State of Israel. As far as I'm concerned, that's not the UN's business to create countries out of thin air. But that is what it is. It's been done, and given the established presence on the ground, I think you have to accept that. Now, there's other things that I wanted to talk about. For instance, the focus on the brutality that the Israelis have done, and they have been brutal. I've seen the video of the arm breaking of the stone throwing children. Now, that is fucking bad. I don't see how any moral person could say that that's a good thing, but in the same sense, I think walking into a pizza parlor and blowing yourself up with a bomb vest, killing men, women, and children is just as bad, and somehow that doesn't seem to be cast in that light. So in that sense, I'm still looking for some answers as to why one side is cast in such an evil pall and the other one isn't. Now, I know there is a lot of it stems from the creation of Israel, and people were moved out of their homes and things like that happened, and it's not good. I think that's when black marks on history that we treated our enemies in World War II, after World War II, better than we treated the Palestinians. And I think that still needs to be resolved, and hopefully sometime we can do that, but it's going to have to come at their acceptance that they can't fundamentally end the existence of a country right now, especially one that's got the force of arms that Israel does. So I don't know how the world's going to get past this without ending up in some kind of Book of Revelation scenario, without acceptance on both sides of the right to either one exist, and that's fanatical Jews and fanatical Muslims or fanatical Palestinian Christians who want to eliminate the other side. That can't be tolerated. Now, a lot of the issues on the net stem with the American support of Israel via foreign aid, and that's true. We do give a large amount of foreign aid. We're the largest contributor. That country is our largest source of foreign aid. Of course, number two is Egypt, and number two is Egypt and the Palestinian territories, as long as they're not run by Hamas. And the reason why that is because Jimmy Carter essentially bought peace in the Camp David Accords in the late 70s. To stop them fighting, he agreed to give money to both sides, and we do give lots of money. We still, to this day, give lots of foreign aid to both sides. Now, it seems kind of silly that we continue to do that, but if you look at it in the frame of history, the United States and the Soviet Union came closer to a nuclear holocaust over the issue of Israel than they ever did over other issues like the Berlin airlift and the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's a fact, and 72 was the highest DEFCON rating, or 73 before the Yom Kippur War was the lowest DEFCON rating that's ever existed in the Strategic Air Command of the United States. So that's pretty scary. So if you look at it in that light, well, it might be money well spent if we avoided a conflict. So that's where the whole foreign aid issue came from. So if we're going to cut off one side, maybe we should cut off both sides. Let the chips fall where they may. I don't know. I'm open to that. But as far as Israel is concerned, they have every right not to want to negotiate with Hamas. because the question isn't over the Palestinian territories. The question isn't over the West Bank of the Gaza Strip. The question is over Tel Aviv. Do we really expect the Israelis to negotiate with somebody whose fundamental position is they have no right to exist, that they need to either leave or die? If I had a next door neighbor, we can argue over the color of the fence, but if he wants to argue over whether I leave, live, or die, well, I'm just going to have to kill his ass first. And tough shit if you don't like it. That's the way of the world, and that's the way people are going to react. And if you really want to have this apocalyptic fervor about ending nations, you got to expect what's going to happen. The Israelis have at least a couple hundred thermonuclear weapons and submarines and on strip alert and etc. And I don't want to live in a world where that kind of nuclear exchange takes place. So we have to be rational about. There, I use rational because it's in my moniker. I need to stop doing that. It's really fucking cheesy. But anyways, we need to be sensical in the way we deal with it and truly accept a two-state solution. And that's everybody. That's the wacko evangelicals in our country. That's the Islamic fundamentalists in other countries.